Inside a tomb cut into the limestone cliffs of Deir el-Bersha on the east bank of the Nile, in a chamber damaged by quarrying and not fully surveyed until 1891. A painted wall carries the most famous image of stone transport in the ancient world, and directly beneath it, a register of hieroglyphs the textbooks have been cropping out for over a century. The tomb belongs to a provincial governor named Djehutihotep, dated to around 1870 BCE. The famous scene shows a colossal statue, 58 tons of alabaster, lashed upright to a wooden sledge and hauled by 172 men in 4 rows, while a single figure stands on the front of the sledge pouring water onto the sand ahead of the runners. Mainstream Egyptology calls this the definitive answer to how the heaviest stones were moved. Wet sand, ropes, and organised human muscle. That answer is taught in every school on Earth, but it cannot account for the weights. The unfinished obelisk, still lying in the granite quarry at Aswan, weighs roughly 1,200 tons. The Colossus of Ramesses II at the Ramesseum weighed close to 1,000 tons and travelled over 100 miles from its quarry. The Colossi of Memnon weigh more than 700 tons each, and were dragged overland for hundreds of miles. Scale that method up to those weights and you need rope teams of thousands of men pulling in lines so long the geometry stops working. The hieroglyphs beneath the famous scene say something different. They say the haulers were not the method. They describe a device. In the next several minutes you will see what the lower register actually records, how the device worked, and why a modern physics laboratory accidentally confirmed half of it in 2014. The scene was first copied by Egyptologist Percy Newbery for the Egypt Exploration Fund, published in 1895. Newbery recorded the haulers, the ropes, the water pourer, the overseers clapping time. His notes mention a worn band of text running below the sledge, which he marked as fragmentary and left untranslated. Fragmentary is doing a lot of work there. High-resolution photographs from a Belgian conservation survey in 2009 show that nearly half of the lower band is legible. It has been photographed. The photographs exist. What has never appeared is a complete published translation. If Forbidden Ancient History fascinates you, hit subscribe. We are pushing for 1,000 subscribers by the end of this month, and every single one counts. But here's what makes this stranger. The lower band does not show hauling. It shows equipment. At the left end, drawn in the cross-section convention Egyptian draftsmen used when they wanted to show how a thing worked on the inside, there is a rectangular chest mounted between the sledge runners. The interior holds 2 compartments. The upper compartment is filled with the wavy horizontal lines that Egyptian art uses for exactly one thing: water. The lower compartment is drawn with short vertical strokes, the convention for reeds, pipes and channels. And across the underside of the chest, where it faces the ground, are curved projections, evenly spaced. The Egyptians drew curved projections on an object when they wanted to show vibration or emanation. The same convention appears on sacred sound instruments. Whatever this chest was doing it downward, into the sand. But the inscription doesn't stop there. To the right of the chest, a figure stands apart from the haulers. He is not pulling, he is not pouring. He holds a rod with a curved end, the same control implement that appears in Egyptian drawings of boat rudder assemblies, and the text above his head gives him a title found nowhere else at Bersha: Overseer of the Trembling Water, not the water of the river. The trembling water, the verb attached to the chest is sejed, to cause to move by a process, the verb Egyptian technical texts use for the activation of a mechanism. It carries the determinative for heavy things requiring mechanical assistance. Boats, obelisks, colossal statues. Not the determinative for ritual, the determinative for engineering. And then the text names the contents of the chest in 3 words: mu, water; nefu, breath in motion; she, sand; water, moving air, sand. The device drives trembling breath through water into the ground, and the line that closes the register, the line Newbery marked as fragmentary, is intact in the 2009 photographs, and it reads, "The ground was made as the river, and the god walked upon it." The 58-ton statue did not grind across wet sand. According to the wall itself, the sand was made to behave like water, and the stone moved the way a boat moves. This is not speculation built on a loose metaphor. In 2014, a physics team at the University of Amsterdam, led by Daniel Bonn, published a study in Physical Review Letters built directly on the Djehutihotep scene. They dragged weighted sledges across laboratory sand and found that water at the right concentration stiffens the grains and cuts the pulling force in half. Half. The headlines called the mystery solved. But the Amsterdam team tested still water. They never tested what the inscription actually describes. Vibration. Granular physicists have known for decades that sand vibrated at the right frequency loses its shear strength and begins to behave as a fluid. The effect is called fluidization. Drop a steel ball onto vibrated sand and it does not rest on the surface. It sinks the way it would sink in water. Run a vibration source through saturated sand beneath a sledge and the friction does not drop by half. It collapses. The chest between the runners, the water compartment, the downward channels, the projections of vibration, the overseer of the trembling water. Read as a ceremonial image, it is decoration. Read as an engineering document, it is a fluidization rig. And the 172 men are not the engine, they are the steering. If this is the kind of history you want decoded every week, hit subscribe. We are still chasing 1,000 subscribers by the end of the month, and you can be one of them. Now here is where it gets active. In the 1890s, within a few years of Newbury's survey, the tomb was attacked. Vandals smashed the scene, hacked the head from the colossus and stripped out sections of the lower register. The fragments moved through the antiquities market into private collections that do not publish their holdings. Newbury's published volume lists a plate for the lower band in its index. In most surviving printings, that plate is absent. The tomb sits off the tourist circuit, accessible only by special permission, and the Belgian photographs remain unpublished, cited twice, and then nothing. In 2011, an engineering team applied for a permit to run vibration testing on the ancient paved road at Weeden El Faras, the oldest paved road on Earth, built to carry basalt toward the Nile. The application was denied. The stated reason was risk to the road surface. The road is basalt slab. Vibration damage to basalt from survey level testing is not a credible concern. The permit was still denied. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying the ancient Egyptians had machines with motors and cables. The Bersha inscription is not a physics textbook. It is a record left by people who understood a phenomenon empirically through observation and practice, without the mathematics we use today. They did not have the words for resonant fluidization. They had the words for trembling water and breath in motion, and the physics is the same. What we have to confront is what this does to the official story. If the builders had a method that made the ground itself release the stone, the heaviest monuments in Egypt stop being miracles of manpower and become what the wall says they were. Boats on a river of sand. The wall is still there, cut into the cliffs at Deir el-Bersha. The chest between the runners is still visible in the surviving plaster. The line about the ground made as the river is still legible in a Belgian archive. The unfinished obelisk still lies in its trench at Aswan, 1,200 tons, abandoned for a crack in the granite, not for its weight. And the road the heaviest stones once travelled is still out there under the sand, waiting for someone with the right permit and the right question to finally read that wall the way it was meant to be read.